Hi there. If you haven't already heard, I will be conducting live online and in-person workshops over throughout 2020, and it's through the ETSI program. And for more information and to sign up to be notified of upcoming dates for these workshops, you can go to convome.com and click on the Work With Me tab, or just go directly to convome.com/workshops, and you will be notified of the dates. And I'll be announcing them on the podcast as well. But if you want early notification via email, that's a good way to get these notices. The classes will be limited in size just because I will be conducting them personally and I want to be able to interact and answer questions. And so you can find out more information on my website. Go to convome.com, click on the Work With Me page, or go to convome.com/workshops.
Welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast, featuring inspiring interviews with Etsy shop owners, hosted by Ijama Elazu.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Etsy Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Ijama, and I thank you for joining me this week. And my guest this week is Maddy Stevens. Maddy runs the Etsy shop Miss Maddy Makes, and she makes the cutest costumes and toys for your cat. And what I really find most entertaining about your shop is your photography and your cat models. And I know we talked briefly about that, but Maddy, welcome to the podcast and thanks for being my guest.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. So before we jump into it, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm 18. I go to college in a little school in Maine, and I've been running my shop for about 4 years now. I've been doing it ever since, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah. Now, what do you? I know I briefly said what you sell on Etsy, but can you give us more details about what it is you make and sell?
Yeah, so I make cat costumes and hats and toys. I started with this book called Crochet and Knit Hats for Cats that I got at the library, and I was following along with the patterns, but then realized crocheting and knitting is not really my thing, but I really love sewing. So I adapted the patterns and came up with new ideas based off that book and kind of went from there.
Did you teach yourself to sew or did you take classes?
Well, my mom is very creative, so she taught me how to sew, and I started by hand sewing, and then I switched to the sewing machine.
Oh, nice. So the patterns that you originally used were for knitting and crochet. How were you able to adapt them to sewing? Did you have to redraw them or create new patterns? Because I know for sewing, they're like the patterns are different when you're sewing an outfit versus how the instructions are laid out when you're knitting or crochet.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of just based it off of the shape that the hats were, and then cut out a piece of felt just like that, and then kind of just figured it out from there, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Etsy. So you borrowed this book from the library. Why? First of all, were you aware of Etsy and what inspired you to actually start selling?
Yeah, so I wasn't really aware of Etsy as much, of course, as I am now. And I always used to, whenever I'd make something, my dad would always say, "Oh, you can sell that," and I never really thought of that. I was like, "Oh, I feel like if I were to do that, I would lose the joy in it because I would just be making one product over and over and over again."
Yeah.
So then I wasn't really fond of that. But then once I started making these hats, I was like, wow, I actually really love doing this. And then I got inspired on Instagram. I posted a photo and someone said, "Oh, will you be selling these?" I'm like, "Okay." I toyed with the idea, and then so I just opened my shop in about like a week after I sewed like a few hats,
Yeah.
and yeah, and then went from there. I had absolutely no clue what I was doing.
That's interesting. I mean, it's funny that you actually started on Instagram. And have you been able to actually sell through Instagram, or do you direct people to your Etsy shop? Because I'm assuming now Instagram plays a major role in driving traffic for you, or at least promoting your products.
Yeah, definitely. I first started posting things like of my cats and stuff, and then when I started my shop, uh, it kind of created a little bit of a community. I'm not thinking about it now. I'm not really sure why people started following me in the first place, looking
People
at my
love
old posts.
cats and animals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then so I was able to get a big boost from Instagram,
Mm.
and I still do now. There was a slowdown a bit in sales and progress of my shop, and I
Mm-hmm.
realized a big part of that was I was kind of losing touch with Instagram and losing touch with all my followers and
Mm-hmm.
communication that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I can definitely see how big of a role it plays.
Okay. So I want to get into your strategy on Instagram a bit later, but before we get to that, because I know for some people Instagram works, and for some people it just doesn't, and I think what you sell and what you make is a function of whether or not the Instagram audience is going to catch on. And so we'll get to that. So once you listed your items and then within a week you started selling, at that point, I figure you're still not really sure what this whole Etsy thing is about. What did you do to figure out how to sell, how to set the prices for your products, and set your Etsy shop up so that it could grow?
Yeah, so I got a lot of feedback from just friends and family saying like, oh, like maybe you should try this price.
Mm,
And in terms of pricing, I of course started out really low,
mm-hmm.
and then grew from there, uh, noticing how other people are selling and everything. And I also reached out to other Etsy sellers.
Yeah.
One particular, well, pretty much a little bit of everyone, and I got feedback about like photography and things like that, and those type of things. I'm still trying to understand.
Yeah.
Etsy put out this new thing on helping with pricing, so I'm gonna look over that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I'm still definitely learning, but I do, and still do like get a lot of inspiration from others and how they view my shop.
Yeah. Okay. Now, running your shop is something that you started because there was a demand, but you're also in college, you said. How do you manage your time between when you're in school and actively taking classes and running a business at the same time?
Yeah, so I started school back in September in college, but before that I was homeschooled, but doing a little bit of classes in a nearby town. And so yeah, so for college, I definitely realized being away from it, I really missed it. And so I, but before I went, I sewed a whole bunch of items. And so whenever I'm away, luckily, I'm so grateful to have a wonderful mom who sends them out. She also has an Etsy shop too, and like I mentioned, is very creative.
Yeah.
So she's always able to send items out. And now, since the current situation of I am not able to go back to school because of this virus,
Yes.
and so I am luckily able to do an independent study where I'm able to create my own class. And for about 10 weeks, I'm going to work on improving marketing for my shop.
Mm.
So I'll definitely see how that goes.
And for anyone who's wondering, when you listen to this episode, we're recording this episode in March of 2020, and right when we're recording is at the COVID-19 pandemic is going on, and so everyone is practicing or is being asked to practice social distancing. And so schools have shut down, businesses are closing or adjusting their hours, and some counties are on lockdown with shelter in place notices. So if you listen to this sometime in the future and you're wondering what we're talking about, that's just giving you some background on the time that we're recording this. So yes, thanks, Maddy, for explaining that. Now, I know at some point you had said you were going to take business classes because you're in college, and it would be a good way to learn about how to grow your business. Were you able to do that before the school shut down, and was that helpful to you?
Yeah, luckily last term I was able to take uh, an amazing business class, and we were able to learn a little bit of everything
Mm.
about marketing uh, and different things like trying to fill out like an income statement and balance sheet. Uh, I was introduced to like the financial aspect, which I never really understood, and now I at least get a little bit about
Mm.
it. So I'm going to try to apply understanding how I pay for things or
Yeah.
where my money goes and kind of organizing that a bit more. So I'll be trying to understand that in relation to my shop during my independent study.
Oh, yes. That's really good. And hopefully, when you pick some things up, you can come back one day and share them with us, because I know a lot of us jump into selling online and pretty much pick up bits and pieces of this along the way. And so I think there's some wisdom in you educating yourself right at from the get-go, especially because you're in an environment to be able to do that. So I hope you'll enjoy that class.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, what inspires you when you're creating these costumes and toys for the cats? Where do you get your ideas from, and how do they come about?
Gosh, I guess just kind of out of the blue. I guess I do definitely get a lot of inspiration from other Etsy sellers. There was an Etsy shop. Hopefully, I don't get this wrong. Fido the cat, who makes these little black and white cookie cat toys, and those are very inspiring
Mm,
in the making of the costume, the black and white cookie costume,
yeah.
uh, and as well as the bread costume that was inspired by a meme, the bread cat meme.
Oh, yes, I see
So
that one.
even though it's kind of outdated a bit, I was uh, it's still one of the best sellers. So
Yeah.
that's good.
When you get an order, do you, or when you come up with the designs, do you make them in bulk, or like a certain number to have on hand to ship out immediately, or are they all made to order? Like, do you need measurements for different cats?
Yeah. So to kind of avoid that, I have so I do stock up quite a bit,
Mm.
and there's downsides of that, and then there's good parts. Is
Mm-hmm.
that good parts meaning I'll be able to prepare for future,
Mm-hmm.
um, if I'm away or things like that. But then the downside is I sometimes have a tendency to make a lot of an item that I think will sell, and then sometimes it just doesn't sell at all, and
Yeah.
then I'm left with a whole bunch of costumes.
Yeah.
Um, so that's definitely something I'm still learning how to do. But so for the costumes, it's one size fits all. I have one cat, Tiki, whose head is very small, and then another cat, Steve, whose who has kind of thicker fur, so his head is a bit bigger. So I'm able to kind of measure between both of them to kind of get a even measurement between sizes. So most of the time, it usually fits all cats.
Okay. Now, so how do you handle slow moving inventory? So say you did make more of one thing, and I think we're all, well, some of us are guilty of that as well. We feel something is going to be a hot seller or a fast mover, and the market says otherwise. What do you do when you have more on hand than you really want to keep on hand? Do you just do a sale, or do you just let it sit till eventually the right buyers come along?
Yeah, so I try to do a sale. A lot of the times I'm still trying to figure that out because sometimes it like doesn't work. I'm like, wow, you really don't want this item. It's like half off. Goodness, it's been
That hurts, doesn't it?
yeah. um, yeah, so yeah, I'm still definitely just trying to figure that out. I noticed that there was this one item that I only have one left of, and it was in somebody's cart. So I put it on sale. I put it on sale just to kind of like be like, yeah, I kind of want to just get rid of this.
Yeah.
And so far I haven't even made that sale. So it's definitely a little tricky. But yeah, I usually just put it on sale. I could potentially do a clearance sale, but with that, I would have to really boost that a lot. And I think I'm just going to have to try to find time for that.
Yeah. Now, interestingly, you mentioned that you can see that it's in somebody's cart. Are you, or have you ever tried using the Etsy features where you can do a campaign for geared towards buyers that have either liked your products or have them in the cart, where you send them an individualized coupon or discount?
Yeah,
it's kind of like a soft pressure tactic, if you will, to just get them to buy it already.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, when Etsy came out with that, I think I tried that just for a little bit, but I wasn't too much of a fan of that. I'm not really sure why. I just felt like, oh, maybe they don't want me to like pressure them in a way.
Yeah.
But I haven't since then. I haven't looked into that more.
Yeah.
But I am when learning a bit more about marketing, I'm going to try to do a bit more of like a targeted marketing. So what I really want is to get a lot of people to post photos because I absolutely love that. And I was thinking I could possibly do like if somebody were to post a photo, I would give them like a coupon or something like that, or like percentage off their next sale.
Yeah.
And so kind of inspiring off of that, I was thinking of modifying it in my own way. But then with that, I would have to do a little bit more work.
Yeah. Yes, and I know that's a strategy that has worked for other sellers too, especially getting more pictures up on social media and getting not users but buyers involved in helping to grow your brand. So it will be interesting to see how that works out for you. Now, do you ship internationally or only domestically?
Yeah, I ship internationally. I have a little map, a little scratch off map, that I scratch off every time international seller to different countries. So that's pretty fun. I definitely love doing that.
Yeah. Have you yet had to use Etsy's new international shipping station? I don't even know what to call it, where you're not sending directly to the buyer in a country outside the US. It goes to a central Etsy destination and then they send it from there. Have you gone through that process yet?
Oh gosh, I haven't got any international sales in a while, so I haven't looked into that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I haven't even heard of that. So I mean, I also haven't looked at the Etsy updates in a while.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Well, I recently had to do that because I had an international sale, and it's kind of like, for anyone who's familiar with selling on eBay, eBay has what they call their global shipping program. And so when you get an international sale, in the past on Etsy, we have been able to just mail our products directly to our international buyers. But now they have, I don't know what they call it. It's like a warehouse or a clearinghouse of sorts. And it's somewhere here in the US. And you pay the international shipping, you create the label and everything. But when you print out the label, it prints out a label that goes to a US destination. And then it says from there, Etsy will handle making sure that it gets to your buyer. I'm not yet sure what the advantage is. I'm assuming it has that there's going to be better tracking to ensure that it gets there, and hopefully some type of insurance if it doesn't. But yes, this is something new that Etsy is doing. And so far, I haven't had any problems with it, but we'll see. Now, do you spend time looking at competitor shops? And if so, how do you use the information you get? Not to say that you copy their designs or anything, but do you use it for price comparison? Do you use it to determine if your products are up to date with what's current and what's currently popular?
yeah, definitely. I use it. I think mostly right now based on pricing and photography.
Mm.
Uh, Pricing, I can definitely see if there are different like cat hats or costumes that other people make to see, kind of compare it to mine, and then also like the product quality and things like that.
Mm.
And then just recently for photography, I'm trying to update my photography, so I can see uh, other people on the page, their the quality of the photography, and that also kind of helps to understand where I'm at.
Yeah. Okay. And for your photography, are you using a specific camera or do you use a smartphone?
Yeah, so I have this camera, I believe called like Sony 5N. I got it, and it's a really good camera, especially for portraits, which is kind of like what I'm
Mm.
doing.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so I've been using that. I used to use my phone, but now I kind of upgraded, I guess.
Nice. And so for the camera, does it involve extra steps to do the editing and whatnot? Just getting your pictures ready before uploading them to Etsy, or are they pretty much Etsy ready or upload ready?
Yeah, so that's what I'm kind of toying with right now. I
Mm.
was trying to do a bit of photography just this morning,
Mm-hmm.
and I the the camera does do a lot of work, but I realized uh, even though I have nice equipment, like I got all these new lights and things, it's still definitely tricky. But so I honestly this afternoon I'm going to try to edit the photos, and I think that that's what's necessary. Even though the
Yeah.
camera does do a lot of work,
Yeah.
the background and how like how the cat and like the model pops out of the page is definitely important. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
definitely try to edit it.
Okay. Now, in the past 4 years that you've been selling on Etsy, have you ever had to deal with any disputes or negative feedback from buyers?
Yeah, definitely. I guess everyone does. I uh, yeah, the first negative review I got was to say that like their cat didn't enjoy the costume, which
Oh,
I find kind of funny because a lot of the 5-star reviews, I just got one the other day, says uh, my cat did not enjoy the costume, therefore I'm giving it a 5-star review because they just find humor in it. And there's definitely some people that don't really find the humor.
that's
So
funny. Wait, sorry. They said the cat did not enjoy it, and so
yeah,
that was fun. Oh, I like that
yeah,
though.
I know, I love that. It's just like one after the next. So like, yeah, so my cat did not enjoy this bread costume, but it was the funniest thing ever, and I loved it, and I got all these great photos. Like,
Oh,
it
nice.
just cracks me up whenever I get a review like that. Yeah, so I definitely do get negative reviews, like always. And sometimes some of them were based on quality, and then which is good because then I realized, oh wait, I should actually probably improve this. So
Yeah.
sometimes costumes have been modified because of that. And Etsy did come out with this new like 1% rule
Mm-hmm.
with reviews. So
Mm-hmm.
if 1%, I think over a certain period of time, is under a certain rating that they don't like, they'll do a warning. So I've definitely kept my eye out of that. So
Yeah.
I'll have to look more into that. But that's definitely interesting to uh, take a look into.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know all the ins and outs of that yet, but I do know it's something that sellers do need to be aware of when it comes to handling disputes and getting um, low review ratings. And I think I'll do some research and do an episode on that just to keep us all educated about what's going on with that and what we need to know. Now, how do you promote your Etsy shop? And I know we talked briefly already about Instagram, but specifically, what is your strategy on Instagram? Do you create a, a costume and then post it on Instagram, and and that's all you do, or do you use like scheduling tools where you're looping your posts on Instagram just to keep them fresh and top of mind for your followers? What exactly is your Instagram strategy?
Yeah, so I just recently, just like last month, I started looking into this. And I used to use this tool, I believe called, like Tailwind. It's
Mm-hmm.
a, yeah, so I tried using that, and I noticed that I didn't really, uh, honestly get that as many likes on a photo, and I don't know if that was just me. Like maybe I should just, maybe that, I don't know, maybe it was all in my head. But it was definitely helpful. But I think that I realized since I was using that and just had it automatically post, then I
Mm-hmm.
forgot to engage with people who are liking my post or just
Yeah.
engage with everyone on Instagram. So that was definitely something I had to work on. But with that, uh, I made my own little schedule. So I try to post about 3 or 4 times a week. I've not been. Sometimes I get off track and just like totally forget. But yeah, that happens. But yeah, so I do try to schedule. I have like a little folder of different posts that I could be posting, so I can always like keep something fresh and
Yeah.
sometimes do like a like behind the scenes kind of update it every once in a while.
Yeah. Now I have a question about when you were using Tailwind. You said you were forgetting to engage when people were liking your pictures or commenting. Is that because you weren't getting the notifications, or because they were just happening automatically in your mind? It didn't register that you were, in quotes, actively posting, and so you didn't know to go and look to see how people were responding to what was being posted to your account.
Yeah, definitely. The Because it was so automatic, then
Mm.
I just kind of like lost touch with it. So
Yeah.
like I wouldn't even go on Instagram at all. I'm like, oh, why bother? It's just posting automatically. So then that's why I kind of like, yeah, kind of like lost touch in the engagement part because I know it's definitely important.
Yeah.
But I think maybe I will go back into that once I kind of set myself a good schedule of like remembering, like, oh, I should check Instagram and engage with others.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because I think that's something we don't think about when we use automated processes sometimes, is that there is the potential to forget or for it to fall off your radar because it's something that's happening in the background. And so that could be a downside of over automating everything we do, is you literally remove yourself completely from the process. So that's one danger, I suppose. I'd never thought about that, but I think it's interesting that it happened to you because I can see that happening to me as well.
Yeah.
Now, do you also have an active website or blog?
Yeah, so I'm currently working on a website now. I'm first gonna work on photography,
Mm-hmm.
and then dive back into the website. But I had been kind of editing it so far, but I haven't published it. I used to have a website, and then I once again just like everything else, I wasn't very like engaged in it,
Yeah.
so I stopped doing that, I think I kind of like totally forgot that I was like still subscribed. So that was that was a mistake.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna try to get back into that and add. I've tons of plans to add like fun things like downloadable PDFs because I know Etsy you can't really do anything free. You have to charge people. So
Right.
that's gonna give me a good outlet to do other fun things that
Okay.
I've been waiting to do.
Okay. So do you intend for it to be just a regular website, not necessarily an e-commerce website? You'll still keep your selling through the Etsy platform, but that will be more for engaging with your community.
So I think I used to not do it. Just have it on Etsy and not do selling on a website.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for this time around, I'm gonna actually try to do that.
Yeah.
Just so I can kind of gauge where people are coming from,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I guess just test it out.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Yeah. Always be testing. That's what they say.
Yeah.
And test quickly. What I heard someone say, implement quickly, fail quickly, move on. Or, if it works, then, keep doing it. And I kind of like that philosophy because for someone like me who tends to overthink things a lot, I will think forever before acting and then waste time and I've lost moments because I spent too much time thinking. And so there's some wisdom in just do something quickly, and if it's going to work, then put in the effort to make it as good as it can be. And if it doesn't work, if it was going to fail and it does fail, move on.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like the motto of my whole shop. I just started not knowing what I was doing. I'm like,
Yeah.
we'll just see how this goes.
Yes. Now, about how much time would you say it takes up during the week working on your shop and everything related to selling on Etsy?
Hmm. Uh, that's a tricky question because sometimes I, right now, I'm currently not really, honestly, in the mood to sew, and I haven't really gotten too many orders, so that kind of works out. And
Yeah.
then sometimes I like really want to and just like stock up on a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, so it definitely just comes in waves.
Mm.
Yeah, I at least do like a little bit every day, and it's always in the back of my mind, whether that be like posting something or making some type of graphic. But yeah, it definitely just comes in waves.
Mm.
Yeah, sometimes I just do nothing, and then sometimes I do so much.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that too. Like sometimes you're just on fire coming up with ideas, and other times you're just like, okay, if I can just post one thing, I can say I wasn't completely disconnected.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, when you get a new idea for a new product, typically how long does it take from the time the idea comes to you to actually creating the product and then eventually having it listed on Etsy, or on average?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I've definitely heard a lot of people say like, "Oh, it takes me like quite a long time because they have to they make it over and over and test it out."
Mm.
And maybe I should take that in consideration, but I most of the time usually just have an idea and just like make it immediately and then just stick it online. And I think that's just out of excitement. I just
Yeah.
get too excited. Yeah, one time a little while ago I had all these ideas for items and just made a whole bunch of them and just like kind of I well for that I kind of waited until I had a whole bunch stacked up. So that was pretty good with me, but yeah, I usually just make it immediately and then just post it and then if I realize oh something doesn't work out, then I'll modify it, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I like that. And for some people that's what works. I found for myself as well, sometimes if I take too long trying to actually follow through on an idea I have, I lose it and it's very frustrating. And so sometimes just the, barreling through with, I have the idea, I need to get it, out now, and then just know that it's out there is a good way to go. Do you sometimes find that and you already alluded to this, that sometimes you just don't feel like sewing? What do you do when you get to those periods to get yourself out and start creating again? Do you have any routines that you follow, or do you just wait for the moment to pass?
Yeah, I usually just wait for the moment to pass and then work on other things. Like right now, I don't feel like sewing, but what I'm doing is working in photography.
Yeah.
So there's other things that do get me excited. It just depends, yeah, on the
Hmm.
time.
Yeah. Now, in the 4 years that you've been selling on Etsy, and congratulations for, on that, because sometimes people don't have the patience to stick it out and just stay consistent. What would you say are some of the things that you've done to set yourself up to be successful on Etsy?
Um, hmm. Yeah, I definitely improve different things as I go along.
Hmm.
So that kind of keeps me going. And I just love it, and I love sewing, and I just love everything about my shop. Like I said, the first semester I was away from college, I had kind of like a gosh, I don't know what it's called, but I was just like really missing my shop. I was like,
Mm.
man, I didn't realize how much I appreciate it. Uh, and that kind of being away from it kind of made me realize I'm like, whoa, yeah, I really like doing this,
Yeah.
and yeah, definitely changing it a lot.
Yeah.
And I get excited about that. So yeah, that definitely helps keep me going. Yeah.
It sounds to me like this is very much a passion driven business for you. Would you say that sounds about right?
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And that helps too with just staying the course, is just having a passion for what you're doing and an enjoyment of it. Uh, so, yeah, that works. What's, if any, is one lesson about selling on Etsy that so far you've learned the hard way?
Hmm. There's been a lot of little things.
Mm-hmm.
I think I guess I'm not sure if this would qualify, but uh, in the beginning I had been packaging all of my items in plastic and not being aware of my environmental impact.
Mm.
And so as I slowly started becoming interested in the environmentally friendly side of my shop,
Mm-hmm.
I switched everything, all my packaging supplies and shipping supplies, and just absolutely everything to as environmentally friendly as possible. And I'm still working on that. And I guess one of the hardest parts that came out of that was switching the display of my products. So I have like a cat hat, and I usually put it in like a little bag with a tag at the top,
Mm-hmm.
and then I switched that and figuring out how I was able to not use those items anymore.
Mm.
That was definitely a challenge, but I do like where I am now, and there's still so much to improve.
Yeah. Has it been hard or difficult to find eco-friendly supplies?
Uh, at times, for shipping supplies, I get them from Eco Enclose.
Oh,
They're
okay.
my absolutely favorite. They're starting to branch out into like stickers and custom cards, which I'm going to start doing. But uh, yeah, I can like say like where it's yeah, it's definitely been a process. I started
Yeah.
uh, a different material for just business cards, and then
Mm.
I found a different material. So it's it definitely takes some time to like, oh, this is actually the better option.
Right. Yeah.
Uh, and in terms of shipping supplies, that was an easy one because it's just like one stop and done.
Okay.
Because this that shop definitely has a lot of great stuff.
Okay. I don't know why I always just assumed finding eco-friendly shipping supplies would be hard, but that probably is, like you said, that the the easier part of running an eco-friendly store, um, because you also have to consider the materials that you use, and then sourcing eco-friendly raw materials for the products you make. But I know that there's a population of buyers who appreciate that and will only shop eco-friendly stores, or from sellers that do put in an effort to conserve or preserve the our ecosystem.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah. So what I realized another challenge is the felt, like the actual material that I use for the hats,
Mm-hmm.
because I use recycled felt. So that's definitely another challenge that, of course, I'm still working on. I use recycled felt out of polyester, which is not good because it's like not a
Mm-hmm.
circular system.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was thinking of switching to wool, but I know that there's a lot of uh, it's definitely it can like harm the animals. So trying to figure that out is definitely one of the biggest challenges.
Mm. Okay, interesting. Yeah. So, what would you say is one thing about selling on Etsy that you really like? And then, are there any features that you would like to see on the Etsy platform sometime in the future?
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely love selling on Etsy because it's great because it has everything kind of done for you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then if I ever want to expand, I'm still able to do that, which is great. But it's a good like starting point to kind of understand business. And one thing I would want to change is to have. Oh, this is a good. Speaking of eco-friendly, uh, is to have. So there's like the bestseller tags on certain items, but I thought it would be really cool to have like a kind of eco-friendly tag, so it's kind of like a verification in a way that like, oh, this product is eco-friendly. And I'm not sure what Etsy standards would be of like how to do that, but I think that would be definitely really interesting. So maybe people when they're searching, they can click like
Oh
if this item
yeah.
for items that are just eco-friendly or something like that. And I thought
Yes.
that would be really cool to kind of highlight that.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh, that's a good idea. I like that one. Now, Maddie, what advice would you give to other young people like you might want to who might want to try selling online, maybe on Etsy? What would you tell them? What advice would you give them about just getting started and sticking with it, knowing that probably a good number of them will also be in the same situation you are, college students, have school, but then also want to have a passion for something like you do and want to make a business out of it.
Yeah, I would definitely just say go for it. And if it doesn't really have like a high price to pay, if you make mistakes, but yeah, just you can do like some research. I mean, it's probably always best to do research beforehand
Yeah.
and not just go for it like I did.
Mm-hmm.
But if you ever have any doubts, just see how it goes,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure you're gonna have fun on the way.
Yeah. Yeah. And would you say that you are having fun as you're doing this?
Absolutely.
Yeah. You've talked about two tools that you've used or and resources. You mentioned Tailwind and Eco Enclose. Are there any other tools and resources that you're currently using to help run your shop that you find particularly helpful?
Oh, I definitely do find it uh helpful to get tips from other shops.
Mm.
Like I mentioned before. But yeah. So in terms of tools, I got this great book called The Lead Machine. It's about small business, like online marketing.
Mm. Okay.
So that's definitely another tool that I'm going to try to use. And just learning online to just, yeah, because I'm looking into like trying to boost my shop and understand what's going on in terms of sales. And
Okay.
learning about it through books is definitely helpful.
Now, the lead machine, do you know who the author is?
Rich Brooks.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so I just started reading that. It's definitely hard to find, but I was able to find a whole bunch of uh, online books
Okay.
about digital marketing that I find are very helpful. I haven't looked into books throughout this whole time doing my shop, and definitely looking into that. I've been learning so many things, and also your podcast has been really helpful
Oh,
as a
thank you.
tool. I've been like jotting notes every time I listen to something. I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that existed. Um, so yeah, so
Good.
that's been definitely helpful when I'm trying to understand everything.
All right.
Like yeah, so like certain things like SEO, like I didn't even know that
Oh,
existed.
yes. Oh,
And
yeah.
so there's a whole world out there, and podcasts and books have been my go-to so far.
Okay, good. Good to know. I will try and see if that book, The Lead Machine, is available on Amazon, and then I'll put a link to it in the notes for this episode for anyone who wants to check it out, or you can just go to Amazon and search for it too. Um, Now, Maddie, do you have an Etsy shop shout out?
Yes, there have been quite a few shops, but I guess in terms of time, I'll just say one. Um, the shop, the Cat Ball, uh, who runs it, Jennifer, and she's been super helpful whenever I have a question about photography or just uh, anything like that. She's been really helpful and a great inspiration.
Did you say the cat fall like FALL or BALL?
The Cat Ball, Ball. She
Oh,
makes
okay.
these cat beds, um,
Oh,
cat canoes, and cat ball cat beds.
Oh, nice. Okay.
She's pretty great.
Okay, cool. So I will link to Jennifer's shop so anyone who wants to check it out can go and do so and let her know that Maddy sent you. Now, Maddy, if anyone wants to connect with you, what's the best way they can reach out and get connected with you?
So you can contact me through Etsy Conversations on Etsy at Miss Maddy Makes. But then I'm also on Facebook and Instagram at miss.maddy.makes.
Okay. All right. And I will link to Maddy's Etsy shop. Again, that's Miss Maddy Makes, as well as her social media profiles. So anyone who wants to connect with you can go ahead and do so. Maddy, thank you so much for being my guest. Thank you for taking time out during this kind of scary time that we're in right now to talk with me and share how you're dealing with it and still focusing on your business and moving ahead. I really appreciated talking with you and learning more about what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
You are welcome. And I thank you for listening to the podcast. I will be back next week. If you'd like to connect with me, I am on Instagram at ConvoMePodcast, or you can send me an email, and that address is interview@convome.com. And if you would like to be my guest on the podcast, you can also go to convome.com and click on the Be My Guest tab.